But that's what level 3 is all about, is just enjoying the journey and realizing that there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path, and that all you need is within you now. Everything you've been searching for, the only reason you can't see it, can't receive it, is because you assume you don't already have it. And we leave what's real in the pursuit of what appears to be. So you actually become present and can receive the present.
Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is Jonathan England, who shows us the path to living a level 5 life of bliss. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? To have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want? To be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and bring balance to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. While you're there, you can sign up for a monthly email where I share the best articles I read this month, let you know about upcoming episodes, and share a little wisdom. You can also listen to coaching calls under the Coaching Calls tab. I also share the most interesting articles I read every week on Facebook at facebook.com/Richer Soul. And there's also a Facebook group where you can ask questions and interact with other listeners. Today's quote is from Joseph Campbell. If you do follow your bliss, you put yourself on a kind of track that has been there all the while, waiting for you. And the life you ought to be living is the one you are living. I say, follow your bliss and don't be afraid. And the doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. We've talked about this a lot in the past. Most people are just drifting through life instead of being intentional and purposeful. The ultimate is learning to let go of what we can't control and be happy with whatever happens. It's a journey through the levels to get there. And the reality is, most people don't go on the journey. Our mission has always been to help you and myself go through the journey. It's one step at a time. There is no shortcut and no map. You have to find your way forward. You can't jump from the bottom rung to the top rung of a ladder without getting hurt. Just take the next step. Enjoy the ascent. We're going to chat about that today with Jonathan England. He is an extraordinary transformational leader and community builder whose name is synonymous with inspiration, empowerment, and positive change. With more than $500,000 invested in his personal development, Jonathan is a true visionary who's devoted his life to helping people awaken to their full potential, tap into their deepest desires, and make the impossible possible. As founder of Earthwaking Eco-Village, a residential community designed to heal humanity from the inside out, Jonathan's on a mission to create a world of abundance for all by taking 100% responsibility for our thoughts, feelings, actions, and reality while working in harmony with nature and each other. By doing so, he and his team are playing a vital role in birthing the new Earth, a world where peace, love, and joy are the guiding principles. Let's meet Jonathan and learn how. Welcome to Rich Your Soul, Jonathan England. It's great to have you join us today.
Thank you for having me on, Rocky. Appreciate you.
And I'm excited to learn from you today. We always like to start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
Well, I mean, they taught me everything that I needed to not know about money. Just grew up. I'm pretty just middle class, I guess. But I mean, the whole educational system was specifically set up to not teach anybody about financial freedom, because it was the purpose of the educational system. And most people are aware of this, but it was set up specifically to teach people how to be employees for the rest of their life. So they couldn't learn anything about financial freedom. And obviously I didn't learn anything about financial freedom. I was taught, if you want to make more money, you got to work harder and work more hours. But I learned that from people like my parents. They worked hard, they worked a lot of hours, and they were still completely broke. So that's a great recipe if you want to be broke, but there's got to be something different. And, I found that out later on in life. And, most of the people that start off broke, like I did, that I've met, one of their first books is The Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I completely related to that. Once I saw it, I mean, I didn't relate to the rich dad, but I completely related to the poor dad. That's what I was taught. That was actually exactly what I learned. And again, that's the cultural conditioning, the indoctrination, domestication process that we all go through to prepare us to be debt slaves for the rest of our lives. And but I always knew that wasn't my future. Like it couldn't be. It just didn't fit for me. It was like just too far out there to think that this is what my life is going to look like, is I'm just going to be working at a job forever and never really got to have any freedom. And so that's how I grew up. That's what I learned, just like everybody else.
You made a comment that everyone knows the educational system is designed for this. Do you think that's true, that everyone knows, or is that just kind of an insider?
Yeah, I guess everyone doesn't know, but it's not like it's hidden. It's completely out there on the forefront. The educational system was set up after the Industrial Revolution. They needed factory workers. So they're like, all right, let's stamp out these cogs in the machine and put them to work building, the Rockefeller-Rothschild empire. And, because they created this Federal Reserve, which is not federal and has no reserve, and just print out this monopoly money. But then they paid for the school systems in order to get the people trained up so that they would, because how you become a really great student is, if you're making A's, what you're doing is you're learning to not ask questions, but to only regurgitate answers. If you start asking too many questions, you're not going to be a straight A student. You got to regurgitate the answers exactly what you're told, because that's the purpose. It did a great job domesticating people, getting them to obey, be obedient, and just do as they're told, which is exactly what you need for factory workers. And it hasn't changed since it was initially set up. So it's not hidden.
No. Have you ever read the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, A Second
Absolutely.
Look at the Federal? Okay.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
It is interesting. And today, more than ever, I think it's become a massive problem, because it's gotten out of hand, for lack of a better word.
Well, it's been out of hand for a while. It's just now it's starting to come to the surface. Like the house of cards is teetering.
Yes. And that's what I mean by out of hand.
Yeah, they built that big debt hole too big. But that was also, they had that in mind the whole time. That was always part of the plan. That's why they got the CBDC coming out. They were, the Great Reset. That was all prepared in advance. They knew these cycles. They know the cycles, and they know where to go. And then that, the CBDC coming out is just setting the stage. They were collapsing all the banking systems and the fiats purposely to go into the next slave system. And that's what the whole CBDC and UBI and everything is set up for. So it's all going according to their plan for the people that are still following that path.
Just for those who don't know, can you explain those? It's not algorithms. Acronyms. Yeah, the two acronyms.
Yeah, so the CBDC, that's the central bank digital currency, which I saw this coming several years ago and was started letting everybody know, hey, just to let you know, this is where the world is going. This is what's going to be happening. People were like, you're a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, it is a conspiracy, but it's not theory. It's a fact. This is just reality. And then once finally the Federal Reserve starts saying, yeah, it looks like we're going to need to move over to a central bank digital currency. And now they got the Fed Now program that's coming out in a couple of weeks, which is basically the railroad track for the central bank digital currency. But they're doing it in all countries all around the world. They're all moving into their central bank digital currency. So it's a digital currency. So you got, all the Bitcoin and Ethereum and all those things that are decentralized digital currencies. So this is just a centralized version. They're using the same technology, but they're centralizing it. But it's called the Great Reset. And that's what is a reset? Well, if you ever played video games when you were a kid, I played Nintendo and there was two buttons. You had power and you had reset. Power turns it off. Reset is, you got to start over. Now, if you had saved and prepared for before the reset happened, you don't have to start all the way from the beginning. But as long as you were prepared for the reset, you can continue where you are. But if you're not prepared for the reset, and like if mom comes in and is like, hey, time for dinner, and she said it like 3 or 4 times and you didn't listen, then mom comes in and kicks the button, then not good for you. So that's where we're at. There's a great reset happening. That's why, there's these banks are just tumbling right now. But again, it was all going according to plan. But so they're going to have a universal basic income, because it's all about equality right now. Equity, everybody being equal, except for, you will own nothing and be happy because you're going to rent everything. Well, who are you renting it from? Well, there's a handful of people who are going to own everything. And yes, it's pretty wild. It's real. It's actually really happening. It's not like it's, and again, that's another thing that I would say everybody knows, but everybody doesn't know, even though it's not hidden. It's right there in plain sight. And like they're saying, here's what we're doing. And people, I guess, because people have what's it called? A bias towards everything staying the same as it's been. So what's a normalcy bias? Yeah, people have a normalcy bias. So they just assume things are going to keep going along as they've always been, which they actually are, except for what people are looking is their timeline is too small. They're not looking at the cycles on a larger scale, on a larger picture. They're just looking at the cycles that they've had over, their lifetime. But if you look over 100 years or a couple 100 years, you'll see there's multiple cycles that are all happening at the same time, and we're right on time. Fiat currencies, they all have just like humans, live about 85 years or so. Well, fiat currencies, they only usually live about 50 years. So the dollar being a fiat, and all the currencies on the planet right now, they all turned fiat at the same time whenever they took the dollar off the gold standard, and Richard Nixon did that, and they were all tied to the dollar, and so everything went fiat instantly when fiats have about a 50-year life cycle. So all the writings on the walls there, everything, but again, nothing is hidden. Right there in plain sight for anybody who cares to look.
How do we prepare for a reset?
Well, I know what I see, and I know what I've been shown, and I know what I'm doing. What I'm doing, I'm down in Costa Rica. I'm building these villages. They're sovereign villages where we have our own food, water, shelter, energy, community, and we've got our own currency as well. Because I'm not going to be part of this whole CBDC, this whole full-on slave system. I'm out, man. I got something better to do. I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm here living in Garden of Eden, enjoying everything. So I severed my dependency upon that sick system where I'm not a slave to it anymore. I'm completely free. And so we're building villages. So every penny I get right now, I'm just dumping it like, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. I'm just pouring into building these villages. Like we just finished our first one. And, finished as many homes as we could possibly get on this property with, again, we got our own food, water, shelter, energy, community. And then we got the second one. We got a big 50-acre property. We're starting to build that one out. And I've got multiple other properties that we're about to be launching into. So this first one was always the prototype. And I've been preparing for this for about 8 years. I saw, visions of everything that's happening in the world today. I saw it back then, and I just started working my way in this direction. And so that's what I'm doing. I don't care about what's going on in the world, but I'm not going to be participating in this social credit score and, where they're going to turn you're going to have a biometric, a blockchain wallet for the central bank digital currency. There's going to be a blockchain wallet with your biometric identity. They're going to be, you're going to have a social credit score as long as you're doing everything you're told, as long as you're getting your shots and saying what you're supposed to say and not saying what you're not. And they got the 15-minute cities that are all coming. That's all completely documented. That's not like any of that stuff's hidden either. They're going to have these 15-minute cities where you're only allowed to fly once every 3 years. You can't go more than 15 minutes from your house. You're not allowed to have cars anymore. Like, this is their agenda that they're completely, full on for. So I don't, I'm not participating in that stuff. I'm a sovereign dude. I'm a free dude, and that's not my game. So,
and that's not what we're here to talk about today. But it's always good to understand people, where they come from, what they see, and what they're doing. And I think we are in a situation where markets are a mess. I am always horrible at predicting the future. So whatever I think is usually either wrong or too far off time-wise. So I've learned to just let it be, and people are going to have to figure out what works for them and what is good for them. Today, we're here more to talk about your book. So what inspired you to write the book, If I Die Before I Wake? A 5-step roadmap to enlightenment, prosperity, and your life's purpose.
There's 3 parts to it. There's the path, the proof, and the process. The path is a roadmap. It's through these 5 levels of consciousness, or 5 states of conscious orientation, 5 ways to perceive reality. The second part is the proof, which is my journey through those 5 levels. And then the third part is the process, which are basically the tools, the kind of like the cheat codes. I always say there's only one way to learn. It's through failure, but the caveat is it doesn't have to be your failure. So I'll show what's not does not work, and then what actually does work. Here's kind of like the recipes to transcend each level. So what inspired me to write the book is it was just level 5 is the not my will but thine be done kind of. It's just a surrender, and you don't really guide your life anymore. You're like you're listening from a higher perspective. You're still perceiving reality from this limited perspective, but you're tapped in, like you got a GPS system and you're just being guided. So I was guided to write the book, and I did a 40-day fast when I wrote the book, and it just kind of came through me, or didn't just kind of, it completely just came through. It was completely written in 2 weeks, exactly the way that you read it. That's how it came through, except for just, a little bit of editing. But it was a journey, and everybody goes through these 5 levels. Now, most people don't really ever go past level 1. Level 1 is called disoriented, where it's the victim mentality. This is the majority of humanity lives in the victim mentality. It's like, I'm doing the best I can, but I just got dealt a crappy hand. Or me, right? But then, and again, that's what we were educated to. We were educated and domesticated, indoctrinated to remain in level 1. So, because the ultimate form of control is dependency. And as long as the people are dependent, then they have to do what they're told to do. So then level 2 is called goal-oriented. This is where you start to set the goals, and you're like, all right, not thy will, but mine be done. I'm going to set the goal. I'm going to make it happen. No matter what, this is what I'm going to do. And you really get clarity. You really get focused, and you take massive action, and you build your kingdom. You build your successful life. And not many people will really even make it. Like, people are teetering around in this level, but not many people actually succeed in that level. It's like a small majority, like 10% of the people actually handle this, like level 2, setting the goals and really doing it. But that's like, because I've always been an all-in guy. When I was in level 1, the victim mentality, I was a broke, ignorant, blackout, drunk, atheist, beach bum. And I was not just drunk, I was blackout drunk. Like, pretty much every night of the week, blackout drunk, because I'm an all-in guy. So how I actually got to level 2 was when I was blackout drunk one night. I rear-ended a car at a stoplight, wound up going to jail that night and sitting in jail. I was like just beating myself up, like, you guy, man, you're stupid, John, you're stupid. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And, but you could have killed somebody. I'm like, yeah, I know, but nobody got hurt, but they could have. And in that moment, I realized, I started thinking, you could have killed somebody, John. I'm like, I know. But then I was like, wait a minute. If one of my actions could hurt somebody, another one of my actions could help somebody. So if my actions can hurt people or help people, then my actions actually matter. And if my actions matter, then I matter. And if I matter, I was living in this perception that life was meaningless and that I didn't matter. And that's why I was blackout drunk every night. Because with those beliefs, why would you do anything different? There's no, when you have an identity of somebody who doesn't matter and life is meaningless, you'll just do stupid stuff all the time. But in that moment, my identity shifted. I made a new decision. I said, if one of my decisions could help somebody and one could hurt somebody, well, never again will my decisions hurt someone. From this moment forward, every one of my decisions are going to help people. And that's when I went into level 2 in that instant. But I mean, there's the shift inside happened in that moment, but then there's still the actions that have to come from the new belief, the new identity. And so I decided that, well, what do I need to do? I'm like, well, I need to take responsibility for my life. Maybe I should build a family. And I'm like, well, how do I do that? I'm like, well, I guess I need to get some money because I'm broke and I can't really build a family with no money. And I need to get me a house and do all the things that the world says you got to do. And so, well, how am I going to do that? And so then I was flipping channels one night and I saw a little Italian guy on TV. He says, his name was Dean Graziosi. And he says, have you ever in your adult life felt like you should be further along than you are right now? I'm like, yes, that's exactly how I feel. And I think I was 20, probably 26 or so at this time. And he's like, if I can give you this one thing that would change your life forever, would you want this thing? I'm like, yes, I want the thing. He's like, all right, well, give me all your money. Like, he didn't actually say that, but that's what he said. I'm like, well, dude, I don't have any money because he's teaching no money, no credit real estate investing. And I'm like, well, I qualify. I don't have any money. I don't have any credit. And your thing is $10,000, which I don't qualify to buy the thing. I can qualify for the thing to be what I need. And, but I wound up coming up with that $10,000. And, as Tony Robbins says, it's never a lack of resources. It's only ever a lack of resourcefulness. That was the moment that I became resourceful for the first time in my life. I found the $10,000 and then I, within 18 months, started with no money, no credit, no clue. Within 18 months, I'd made $400,000. Within 2 years, I built a multi-million-dollar empire. And in 2012, I don't know if you know Dean Graziosi, but he in 2012, I was his number one student. We had partnered with him on deals and just really took off. But that, again, I'm just describing level 2 of the 5 levels right now. That's the success, the goals. And, I did it. And I did it quick.
Congratulations. I didn't know that he was actually doing the real estate stuff. I thought he was just lending his name.
Well, actually, that is what he was doing. I didn't know that at first. And I was very naive back then. I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was so naive that when because I was on the phone with him and I was telling him what I'd been doing. And he's like, what? You did what? I'm like, yeah, I just did this. I did these deals, made $100,000 off that one, made 30,000, 70,000, 50,000. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, really? What do you mean? I thought that's what everybody does that takes your course. It's like, no, this is not what people are doing. I'm like, oh. And so, it was pretty wild when I found out, like, because again, I'm just doing doing the steps. But yeah, it was like a different company it was his face and he was sharing this stuff, but it was I don't remember the name of the company that was the one that had the training programs. But then I was going to actually teach for him. And I started doing this class. Like, I went to this place and there was like all these people paid like $20,000 to show up. And I'm thinking they're all coming there for Dean's thing. But it would turn out they were all there for Scott Yancey. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I can't teach you anything about Scott Yancey's stuff. I don't know anything about him. But it turns out that it was like the company was actually teaching for all the people. And all these faces or whatever. But really though, there was a guy that was Dean's students, like that was like that. His name was Matt Larson, and this guy, he really developed some really powerful tools on how to do like real estate wholesaling. And it was one of Dean's students, but he was the one that developed this stuff. Matt Larson did, and I really started following his stuff. And gosh, like it really just turned everything on. And that dude, he's quite a dude, Matt Larson. He's like this machine that just gets it done. So, long story short, yeah, I didn't realize that was how it really happened, but then I found out later. So, but Dean doesn't really teach real estate anymore. Now he's working with Tony Robbins. They're partnered up, which actually I gave him the blueprint for that. Like I told him, April 30th, 2015, I told him. And it was this weird message that came through me. I didn't actually write it. It was written through me, and telling him that he was going to be partnering with Tony Robbins to be part of Reinvent the Educational System. And here's the blueprint on exactly what you're going to create together. And Dean like wrote back to me, and he's like, okay, well, kind of tell me a little bit more about this. I'm like, I don't even know where that came from. But then another email came out. It just really laid out the whole blueprint for what became KBB, which is a Knowledge Broker Blueprint program. And like, he wasn't really even friends with Tony Robbins back then when I wrote that email, but it was 5 years to the day that they actually partnered up and then launched that Knowledge Broker Blueprint, which is all about, making self-education the new norm. And so that's what he's doing now. But
was your training program based out of Utah, the real estate one?
I don't know. I don't even remember. Again, I was just
okay.
I don't remember where it was and everything, where they was based at. I don't even remember what the name of the actual company that was teaching was. But I do remember Matt Larson. I know that his stuff is the stuff that actually worked for me.
Okay. The only reason I ask is they're very good at separating people from their money. They have very good slick sales messaging, and they're very good at what they do.
Well, I'm glad they separated me from my money, because I'd still be a broke, ignorant, blackout, drunk, atheist beach bum if they had not. So thank God I fell for it. And thank God I was so naive that I really thought that it worked. And because that's the reason that it worked for me. I say like beginner's luck is you just don't know that you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's once you start to get programmed that you can't do this, that's when it gets really difficult. But I didn't know that I couldn't do it. I literally thought that that's what everybody was doing. So it just happened. But I'm really glad that they did it. But it wasn't even my money. I had to go borrow somebody else's money to even pay for the course. So thank God they convinced me that I could do this and got me to go become resourceful. And it changed my whole life. I mean, it worked. The stuff actually did work. I mean, it shocked me. I remember my second deal I ever did. My first deal, I was planning on wholesaling, which is just getting the property under contract, then basically selling my equitable interest in the contract. But once I got that first one in the contract, I'm like, dude, if I could just it was like $45,000. If I could just come up with the money for this, I could make $30,000 off of this deal. And like $30,000, that my best year I'd ever had my entire life was $25,000 for a whole year. And I'm like, I could make $30,000 off this one deal. If I could just come up with this money, I came up with $10,000 just a little while ago. And like in 24 hours, maybe I can come up with the $45,000. So I got all inspired, and I wound up going to my boss and saying, hey, I've been, studying this program. I paid $10,000 for it, and I know what I'm doing. And I found this deal. I could make $30,000. Will you just blow me the money? And he was like, yeah, sure. I'll loan you money. I'm like, really? This is pretty wild. So I got the money. I wound up doing that deal. I didn't make $30,000. I only made $17,000. But then I was like, wait a minute. I just made $17,000. This is pretty wild. And then I found my second deal, which I'd followed the things that were in the course. They said put out some bandit signs, right? Which was just the 18 by 32 inch yellow signs. I buy houses any condition. My Google Voice number, and I stuck that out there, and they worked. And I had people call up, and I wound up buying a house for $10,000. And I wound up selling it for like $120,000, but I had to do some work in there. But I wound up making $70,000 off of my second deal. And I remember that, like after I got the $70,000, like after the whole thing went through, and I'm just sitting there, and it was like so weird, because I'm like, hold on, this can't be possible. I can't really have just made $70,000 just off this deal, because my whole life I've been told if you want more money, you got to work harder, work more hours. This is the easiest thing I've ever done. I made 70 grand. I used to watch this show, Pranked, I think it was called, where there's the hidden camera show. And I just waiting for somebody to pull out a hidden camera on me. Like, just joking, give me the money back. It's not real. Either that or I'm going to jail. Those are the only two things that could be possible for me to just make 70 grand like this. But it worked. It was real. And then I wound up doing my next deal. I made like 30 grand. The other deal, 60 grand and 25 grand and 50 grand. And it just kept going. I'm like, well, all right. But it was weird because, we do the wrong thing so long, the right thing feels wrong. So I went so long being a broke debt slave that being free felt weird. So until I got used to it. Now I'm used to it.
And real estate is definitely a way to make money and to make a lot of money. At the same point, you can go bankrupt if you don't do it right. And it's funny, it's the space of real estate education is a space where a lot of people spend a lot of money but don't take action. And it's kind of very frustrating, but neither here nor there. If you take action and you do it, that's awesome. So I think we only got to level 2, right?
Yeah. Then after I got all successful like this, because it took me 6 months to do my first deal, but it really took me 6 months to shift my identity, to shift my belief, because in the course that I took, it said, go to a real estate investment club and hang out with other real estate investors. Well, we didn't have one in my city. So I was having to drive an hour and a half each month, each way, each month to go to a real estate investment club. And I kind of just hid in the corner the whole time, like the first few months, like, I hope they don't find out I'm not a real estate investor. And, but by like month 4, I'm like, dude, I know everything everybody here's talking about because I'd been studying it in my course. And then by month 5, I'm like, dude, I could teach this stuff. And then by month 6, I'm like, I'm just as smart as him, as her, as him, as her. And that guy over there, that guy's an idiot. And if that guy can do it, I can do it. You know what? The very next day I got my first deal. But in those first 6 months, in order to be a real estate investor, one of the very important things is you got to put in an offer. In those 6 months, guess how many offers I put in?
0.
Not one. Obviously, it's not a shock that I didn't get any deals. But it was because I still saw myself as a broke, ignorant, blackout, drunk, atheist beach bum. And those type of people don't put in offers on real estate. It was the moment when I called this guy an idiot, that if he can do it, I can do it. Then I'm like, well, if he can be a real estate investor, I can be one. And that's when the identity shifted. And that's when the action shifted. So, but the point that I was going to make there is that after that, and I started, within 18 months, I've made 400 grand. I'm going to that real estate investment club, still going there every month. And each month at the beginning, they say, hey, anybody want to share some of your successes? And so here I keep showing up, and like these people have been doing this for 20, 25 years. And all of a sudden each month I've got more successes than all the rest of them combined. And I'm like, well, you know what? I need to start my own real estate investment club in my city. And I wound up doing that. My very first meeting, I had 65 real estate investors show up to my very first one. But here, the point of what I really wanted to get to was that I have all these real estate investors. And then I saw there was a Than Merrill, which is another real estate investing guru guy. He had his little circus show comes through town, and where it's like they're doing their little 3-day event and all this stuff. And they wound up selling like half of my class, my real estate investment club. They sold out. There was like at least 10 people I know for sure paid like $40-something thousand for this education. And I'm sitting there like, damn, y'all just paid for, I could have taught you all this stuff, but, and they paid $40,000 each for this stuff. And then I'm sitting there watching them for like 3 months and nobody's doing anything. Like nobody's getting any deals or anything. And so then I'm like, I'm going to have to make a course and so then I made my first course, and then I actually, did I give it to these people? I can't remember. I might have actually given it to the people in my investment club. But then right afterwards, all of a sudden everybody starts taking my course and doing my thing. And they've been doing like going to this 40,000. And the problem with it, the big $40,000 thing is the people didn't need all that stuff. All the stuff was like, there was accurate information in there that actually could help people, but it was just too much because they had to make it more than what the people needed in order to charge what they were charging for it. I only gave the people what they needed. And I mean, there'd be people coming in, take my course. It was called 5 Days of Freedom. And literally they go through this in 5 days and they're getting their first deal. And I remember there was a guy who, he didn't even have any credit. He didn't have a checking account, nothing. In his first 30 days, he got 2 deals and he did a double close on both of them, simultaneous closing, and wanted making $11,000, didn't have a checking account. So anyway, the people kept doing it over and over. And now all of a sudden anybody's taking my course and making $25,000 a month. And so anyway, the point is that I just keep seeing all this stuff out there that isn't working. And so I just create something that actually works. And then people start succeeding, and which is also the point of the 5 levels of consciousness. Because what I also noticed is that level 2 doesn't work. And how I noticed that is because level 2 is all about success. And I'm like, well, I need to make $1 million, then I'll be happy. Or first it's like $100,000, then I'll make it happy. Well, I get the 100,000, I'm not any more happy. Like, I know I need $1 million. I get the $1 million. I'm not any more happy. I get the big house. I do everything that I'm told to do, and I'm still not happy. And it's like, the more I do everything that I'm supposed to do, the more like, it's like I get more hopeless or something. And like the more I gave my family what they wanted, the more miserable they got. I mean, they had everything. Nobody had to work anymore. We're going on vacation all the time. We got the big house, and they're all miserable. I'm like, this isn't making any sense. And so there was a point where, like my girlfriend at the time, she was taking 20 Oxycontin a day. She had twin boys. They were teenagers. They were all addicted to drugs. They were punching each other in the face all the time, punching holes in the walls. And it was just crazy madness. My mom, she's on hospice, about to die. The hospice nurses looked me in the eye and said, she's going to be dead in 2 weeks, prepare. And I'm like, what in the, like, I'm doing everything right. I'm successful. I got all the money where nobody has, I'm giving everybody the life that they want. Why is everything going wrong? And it just started like hurting. And then one last ditch effort, my girlfriend's brother, he lived in Arizona, Arizona, New Mexico. And he had just gotten out of jail he had been addicted to crack. He was stealing people's stuff so he could go buy crack and sell it and buy crack with it. And he went to jail for that. He gets out and he calls me up. And he's like, John, hey, I burned all my bridges, but I just need a hand up. Can you give me a hand up? I'm off of crack. I'm all cleaned up. And can you just give me a hand up? And now here I am, the midst of my whole family falling to pieces. My mom's dying and everything. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe because this was my girlfriend's younger brother, and she pretty much raised her brothers because her mom was alcoholic. She didn't have a dad. So I was like, what if I could just help him? Maybe that would make her happy. Because all I was doing, trying to figure out how to make these people happy. And, as Jim Rohn says, if you ever, he's like, I was going to make these people happy if I died. Well, it almost killed me. And in a way, it did kill me because I brought him in. I'm like, all right, maybe this is the key. I can just help him and then everything will be fixed. And she'll finally be happy. And then that'll unlock everything. And you know what? Within 2 weeks of me bringing this guy to my house, he had stole my credit cards, charged him up thousands of dollars, stole all my tools, stole my bicycle, and stole my truck, and sold it all for crack. Like, he rented my truck out for crack. He couldn't sell that, I guess. But I'm like, while my mom's dying, while everything else dying, you got to be shitting me, man. And it was too much. It was too much. And I finally just laid down my head. And for the first time in my life, I said, I failed. I'm a failure. I'm just a complete failure because I give it everything that I had. I'm an all-in guy. I went all in. I went all the way. And there was nothing left in me. And no matter what I did, it was never enough. So I laid down my head and said, I failed, I'm a failure. And what happened is this weight just lifts off my shoulders. I'm like, and my head just rose up. I'm like, what just happened? It's like this phoenix emerged from the fire. And what happened in that moment is that everything that I thought that I had to be in order to be worthy of love, it all died because I couldn't be it. Because I'd already given everything to be it. I'd given my whole heart, my whole soul to be who I was supposed to be the good son, the good everything. And it wasn't enough. And there was nothing left in me. So this egoic identity, who I thought that I was supposed to be, it literally just died right there. And then I was free from it. And it's like, this grand opening happened where I don't know how else to explain it except for I merged with everything for all of eternity. I was no longer trapped inside of this limited perspective. I had stepped into the oneness and finally found what I've been looking for the whole time. I was been just looking for happiness, looking for peace, but it was in me the whole time. And that's what level 3 is all about. Level 1 is called disoriented, where you don't know where you're going. You got no direction. You just got like pinball getting bounced around. Level 2 is called goal oriented. This is where you got clarity, you got focus, you know where you're going. But level 3 is called journey oriented, because at level 1, you think life is meaningless. And level 2, you think it's about the destination. If I can just get the car, if I can just get the house, if I could just get the spouse, if I could just get the bank account, whatever the thing, if I just get the business. But it doesn't matter. It's never going, you're like a black hole. The more you get, the more you need, because it's like a drug coming from the outside in. You take a hit, it wears off, you got to get the next one. And it's never going to lead to anywhere. So, but you're thinking in level 2, it's about the destination. Sooner or later, you're going to get to the destination and you're going to find something. But then level 3 is when you realize it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. It's about enjoying the journey. You don't go to a movie to watch the final scene. You don't go to, listen to a song just to hear the final note. It's about enjoying the journey. And so level 1, people live in the past, which creates depression. Level 2, people live in the future, which creates anxiety. And level 3, people live in the present, which it doesn't create peace. It just reveals the peace that is present all the time. So, which I dropped into level 2 today. It was really wild. And because I went into town, I live out here in Costa Rica, out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's not in the middle of nowhere. But it's just this beautiful mountains and waterfalls and, but I went into the city today and I got sucked into level 2 in the city because I was supposed to be here for this interview and I couldn't get here. And so I was like 10 minutes late, and I always do what I say I'm going to do, no matter what. Like that's one of the keys to level 2. Like if you're going to be successful at level 2, you better do what you say you're going to do. And now here I was not able to do what I said I was going to do, but I was trapped in the future because I'm like, I got to get there. And it was so wild. It's been so long since I've been in that experience. And I felt frustration in me. Like, wow, this is weird. I didn't even know this still lived in me. I didn't even know this existed in me. But it's like I completely went into an old identity and felt frustration because I had the anxiety because I was in the future. But what I kept doing on the journey here, because I was actually right, I had a driver bringing me here, and I just was there, just going back to the present moment, enjoying the journey as best as I could. But it was really weird. But anyway, that's what level 3 is all about, is just enjoying the journey and realizing that there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path, and that all you need is within you now. Everything you've been searching for, the only reason you can't see it, can't receive it, is because you assume you don't already have it. And we leave what's real in the pursuit of what appears to be. So you actually can become present and can receive the present.
Today's episode is sponsored by Profit Answer Man Podcast. Did you know that most small business owners hate looking at their financials? It's one reason they may struggle with business success. The Profit Answer Man podcast helps them ensure they are profitable and can pay their employees and weather the storms we all have to face. It's built on the Profit First methodology of pay yourself first. The Profit Answer Man podcast is a must-listen to for every small business owner and anyone who wants to help them survive and thrive. Check it out on your favorite listening platform. And that was going to be one of my questions is when someone gets to a level, are they always in that level, or do they, as you mentioned, depending on the circumstances, the moment, fall into different levels and then have to wake back up or re-engage. And it could be just a split second and go, wait a minute, I'm back here. Now I have to remember and I need to go there. Cause I know you talked about Tony Robbins. I think you've been to see him. Tony even says that. He goes, I can never stop it. He goes, it'll come back in. And I will let it play for 60 seconds, and then I will stomp it out and move back into where I want to be. So I'd love to get your input on that.
Yeah. Now, in truth, we're actually all in level 5 all the time. But what you believe to be true is true for you, even if it's bullshit, even if it's a lie. Because, what you believe to be true is true for you, even if it's a lie, and you'll make the lie more real than real. Like, just an example, if you thought one of your friends talked bad about you and you actually had the experience of betrayal. And then you find out later that it never even happened. You're like, oh, but it was real to you. It was real that you got betrayed by your best friend, even though it wasn't true. So we'll make this, we can live inside of a lie and make it more real than real. So the truth is we're all in level 5, but we're perceiving because we've been, again, domesticated and indoctrinated into perceiving ourselves in level 1, like the victim of circumstances. And so as I said earlier, you do the wrong thing so long, the right thing feels wrong. And back in my old identity, my old life, I was always living in either anxiety or depression. It was just waves of both. I'm going between the both of them. And every now and again, I'd get a little glimpse of happiness. If all the conditions, all the circumstances lined up, I'm like, hey, I'm happy. But now it's the opposite. It's like, my state is like always in this state of just peace, of just peace, love, and joy in the present moment. And from this space, like there's so much grows out of me, like so much is being done in this world around me beyond what I could ever do back in level 2. Like there's like, it's miracles occur around me. Like just if you could see this village that got built here around me, and how fast that it happened. It was impossible. When I was real estate, building houses, all this stuff, it was never as fast as what I just saw happen here. But it's like I'm in this surrender state, and it just happens around me now. But it's like shifting a gear in a car where you're driving and it gets revved up, and then you shift the gears, the RPMs go down, but you're going faster. And so that's what it's like as you start transcending these levels. Your engine's not revved as high, but everything's happening faster. You're like, bigger things are happening around you. But so, yes, when you go up in the higher level, you can still drop down at any moment. And you can fall asleep at the wheel. Like again, I did it earlier. It's very rare. That's like the first time that's happened to me in years. And so it's interesting. I don't know. I'm still asking, like, why did that happen? It just, I'm a why guy. I'm always understanding because you'll know them by their fruit. And what that means is the results in your life are your fruits. Your thoughts are your seeds. Your mind is your garden. So whatever seeds you're sowing, when you sow these seeds, then your emotions, the energy and motion is basically watering the seeds of the thoughts. And then you're going to take an action and it's going to produce the results. So by the time a fruit shows up, you've already sowed a seed and watered it for a while. It went into your subconscious beneath the ground and dug out some roots. So I'm always why, like if a fruit shows up into my garden that I don't like the taste of, I'm like, well, why is that there? Where did that come from? And so I find whatever the lie or the resistance or the fear or the judgment inside of myself and let that go. It's like dig that thing up and just throw it away. And then I return to the state of truth.
Nice. That was helpful. So we've gotten to level 3. What's the next level?
All right. So where humanity is trying to get to right now is level 3. The collective consciousness, because each individual goes through these levels, but so does the collective. Like what happens on the macro happens in the micro, and as above, so below, as below, so above. It's like, they're happening synonymous, but it's like aspects of an individual will start to wake up. And so, because people are fragmented, they've had things happen throughout their life, and then they'll have like a traumatic response to it, or it's a traumatic reaction, and they'll build an egoic identity around it. Like some people are really successful because they're afraid of being a failure, right? Like maybe their dad was hurting all, because he was working so hard and whatever, something happened, and then they make, okay, well, that's never going to happen to me. So then they build an egoic identity and start reacting from that. And so each time one of these moments that somebody can't be with happens in their life, they fragment a little bit. They create a new little aspect of an identity for themselves. And so when you start to awaken, you're starting to remember, you're starting to reintegrate, because we were disintegrating. Society is disintegrating right now, but where inside of the individual, you start to reintegrate. Everything comes together. You move back into congruency, mind, body, and spirit, all in alignment. And so that happens inside of each individual, but each individual is part of the collective, is like the collective is a body. And so the individuals are waking up, but currently the collective is in level 2. Like most of humanity is in level 1, but there's like the 10% that are in level 2, and then like the 0.1% that are even like really controlling the whole world. And so the collective consciousness, the energy of it is a level 2 energy. But the thing about level 2 is, you're still looking for happiness on the outside. You're still consuming. I got to get this. I got to get that. I got more. And if we stayed in level 2 any longer, we would have destroyed the whole planet. Like we're already tearing down all the rainforests, like killing all these, animals going extinct because I need more. So we would have destroyed our habitat if we'd have stayed in level 2 any longer. So it's time to go into level 3. But the only way to get there's 2 ways. You can do it consistent spaced repetition, being where you do the work by choice, or if you do it by choice, you can face it within. But if you don't do it by choice and face it within, then you're going to face it without by chance. It's going to come at you like a 2x4 is going to knock your life out from underneath you. And so that's what's happening for humanity right now, is knocking our life out, like collective, out from underneath us, so that we can't be in control anymore. And then you're going to have to step back and find a way to be okay under circumstances that you have no control over. And that's when you get set free. When you can be free unconditionally, then that's how you get into level 3. And so the collective is moving into level 3 right now. Well, not everybody's going to make it. The majority are going to be kind of like when you saw like in the 2008, like there's people jumping out of buildings because their whole life that they worked so hard for just like falling apart. So they can't be with it. So they're like jumping out of buildings, or the Great Depression. You see, anytime one of these moments that we're stepping into, but I mean, what we're stepping into blows the Great Depression out of the water. But anytime one of these moments shows up, some people just can't be with it. They can't make it through. And then there's some people that actually make it through when they can accept what is and then start to move forward. And so once you get to level 3, which is it's unconditional peace, no matter what the circumstances are, it's unconditional love, unconditional joy. The circumstances don't define me. I actually define the circumstances from the inside out. And so you found everything that you're looking for in level 3, but then level 4 is when you start to overflow into the world around you. It's like seek first the kingdom, or the kingdom of God is within you. So you drop into the kingdom in level 3, and you're like, all right, I've got everything that I could ever need. When I went in level 3, I was actually homeless again. I gave away. I don't even know how many houses I gave away. I gave away millions of dollars worth of cash, and I just gave stuff away. I literally gave away at that time it was like a $350,000 house. Just gave it, and I just gave it, and then I was just like walking around, didn't have a car, didn't have a house, didn't have anything, and I was just happier than I'd ever been in my whole life, because everything that I was looking for, I had it in me. And so, but now that you found everything you're looking for in level 3, level 4 is called value oriented, where you start to overflow into the world around you. You're not giving to get anymore. The only reason you're receiving is so you can give. It's like you're just overflowing, just pouring it out. And if you would have put a gun to my head when I was in level 2, if you would have described these 5 levels to me, if you'd have put a gun in my head and said, what level are you in? I would have swore to you I was in level 4 when I was in level 2. I would have swore, because I'm doing all this just for my family. I'm doing all this just to, I'm not doing this for me. But what I didn't realize back then, because you can't see the picture when you're inside of it, I was trapped inside of this little picture of still trying to become worthy. The real reason I was trying to build a beautiful life for my family is because I didn't think that I was worthy to have that family unless I did all these things, because I was a human. I perceived myself as a human doing rather than a human being. I thought I was loved for what I do, not for love for who I am. And so in level 3, you're in love with yourself. You realize it's only me here. There is no separation, and there is only love. So then level 4, you start to overflow that love. You start to overflow that joy. It overflow the abundance in the world around you. So other people start to rise up. Another way to describe it is like in level 3, it's like you stepped outside of a cage, but you look around, you see all your friends and family and loved ones and everybody like still inside of the cage. Now, it's a self-imposed prison and the handle's on the inside, but they don't know that. So level 4, you kind of like start unlocking cages, or just hey, look, there's the handle. You want out? And you just show them where the handle is so they can start coming out. And so it's called value-oriented. Now, remember, level 1, people think life is meaningless. Level 2, they think it's about the destination. Level 3, they think it's about the journey. Level 4, you realize, well, it's even the journey is going to be over, so it can't be about that either. It's about who you become along the journey. Because for like every new destination, each new journey, you become a new person. Like the person that I was, the identity that I was back when I was in level 1 was a broken or blackout drunk atheist beach bum. The identity that I was in level 2 was a successful guy who can set the goals and do whatever, and be very successful and can win. It's like different identities. So I'm becoming something. And I'll go ahead and finish what happens in level 5, since I'm already saying on that journey here. Level 5 is when you realize it's not about the destination. It's not about the journey. It's not even about who you become along the journey. It's about remembering who you've always been. And what I mean by that is, like, there's a mango tree right here in front of me. And this mango didn't have to go to mango school to learn how to be a mango tree. Everything that it needed was already in it to become what it was created to be. And so what people do, we give up our purpose for approval. We give up our purpose for profit. We give up our purpose for significance. We give our purpose for safety, security, for acceptance. And so we leave behind actually who we are. As I think it was Albert Einstein said, if you judge a turtle on his ability to fly, he's always a failure. But we were all being judged upon the same test, and being stamped out as cogs in the machine, taught that we're not loved for who we are. We're only loved for what we do. If we can do what we're told to do exactly the way we're told to do it, and regurgitate the answers the way that they were given to us, then we get an A. If not, you're a failure. So we forgot who we are. And an apple tree, it just makes apples. An apple tree can't look over to a pear tree and be like, hey, everybody's eating the pears right now, so that means I'm not valuable, and the pear tree is, so I'm going to figure out how to make pears. Like, apple trees can't do that, but that's what people do. And they leave their purpose trying to figure out they leave their purpose for profit, for whatever it is that they think that is missing in them. They stop making, they don't produce their fruits because they're trying to figure out how to produce somebody else's fruit, because that one's going to get more of whatever it is that they want, whether it's love, profit, significance, approval, whatever the thing is. They give up their fruit to try to figure out how to do that, but they're never going to be able to figure it out. And even if they do, it's not going to have any sort of fulfillment inside of them. So level 5 is the not my will, but thine be done. And you just surrender to, like, you don't have to create yourself. God already did that. You just got to remember what you were created for. And then you become king of your thing. Because that's actually the purpose of all of us. We were here on earth to establish God's kingdom. This is an extension of heaven. We are here to bring heaven to earth, to bring the kingdom to earth. And we're here to take dominion over this world. We're not to be kings and queens over each other, but we're here to be king of our thing and queen of our scene. And you'll find out what your thing is. You're the king of your thing, and you use your thing to serve people. And you don't use people to serve your thing. You use your thing to serve people. And everyone has their own thing that they can become the king of. And that's really what opens up. That's your purpose. That's really what gets unveiled to you when you step into level 5.
I like it. I've read so many different books, and I think they all say a similar message in a different way. And in a sense, you're even kind of bringing the Bible into this. So all of these things are the same story in a different language. You just have to find your path and open your eyes to the fact that, hey, it's all right here. Go do it. And I think that's the hardest part, is just coming to that acceptance. Because as you've said, for most of our lives, we've been programmed, and even throughout adulthood, you know, all you do is watch commercials and social media that tell you this is what you need to be, or this is who you should be to be happy. And until you realize it's all a farce and you're in charge and you already have everything you need, it is a constant struggle. So it's about letting go. One of the things you said is you have to die before you die. And it really is about, you have to kill your ego, or it's going to trap you in eternal torment. And that's really what keeps people out of level 5, isn't it? Ego.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I described the moment when I went from level 2 to level 3, that was the death. That was the death of my ego, the death of everything that I thought that I had to be worthy of love. We're so programmed to believe that we're loved for what we do. So that makes us become human doings, but we're human beings, and we forget that. So we're on this hamster wheel, like trying to earn our love. Nobody feels like they're worthy. Nobody, like, no matter what I do, it's never enough. And it's never going to be enough when you're starting with that false presumption. And so we leave what is real in the pursuit of what appears to be. So once that, it's just an illusion that there's something out there. Once your ego, like, again, the only way I've seen anybody, I speculate that you could do it by consistent spaced repetition, where you could let it all go by choice. I speculate that, but I've never seen it. I've only ever seen people wake up by their like whole world getting shattered. And then it's either they die or their ego dies. One of the two is going to have to die. Either because they're like, they feel like a complete failure. They feel like they've failed their family. They failed something. They failed everything. It's like, I'm just a big loser. And they're face to face with that. And you have to face your fears fully and go through them. And when you can face that and step through it, that's when it all dies. The ego falls away. So that's the death. And then level 4 is when you begin the resurrection. So after you die, then you resurrect as your true self. So I talk about it. It's like, so life is an 18-inch journey from the head to the heart, from the mind through the emotions to the heart, from slavery to freedom. And I said through the emotions. You can't go around them. When we're in level 1, and or in level 1, we're probably like trapped in our emotions. But in level 2, we get trapped in our mind, which is, I call it our ideal self, which is our mask that we put on. We develop this thing. It's kind of like an Iron Man costume. Like you're not the costume. You're in the costume, but the costume's doing all the stuff. And so that's what level 2 is all about, is building this perfect costume that can do all the stuff. Aha, look, I'm a hero. Look how awesome I am. But you're still inside of it. And without that costume, you feel like nothing. And so, and you are nothing in that world that you're creating, that you're giving all the value to the costume. Like, you're building a world. When you start building that Iron Man costume, you only start to relate with people. You bring people into your reality. You move into a relationship with people who love the Iron Man costume. And so if you ever lose that costume, you lose all the people that love you, because they never loved you. They only loved the costume. And I know exactly what that feels like, because like once my costume fell off, but it was my ego. That was the death of my ego, was the death of my Iron Man costume. Like everybody just left me and turned on me. Like they either left me, or even worse, actually turned on me. The people that I just loved the most are just now turning around, just shooting flaming arrows at me. I'm like, dang. Well, this is weird, but it was the world that I created for myself. I did the whole thing. So we're never a victim, but we're so powerful that if we think we're not, we're not. as Henry Ford says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Our greatest gift is that we're always right, but our greatest curse is that we're always right. The question is the thing you're trying to be right about actually going to give you what you want? I always say there's no good or bad, right or wrong. There's what works and doesn't work given what you're trying to accomplish. So is what you're believing, what you're fighting to be right about, is that going to give you what it is that you want in life? Yeah, I don't know who it was that said this, but I've heard it attributed to Jesus, but it's not in the Bible. I don't know where it came from him, but it says, I tell my people they can have what they say, but they keep saying what they have. You can have what you say, oh, but I'm sick. You can have what you say, but you keep saying what you have. You can have wealth, but I'm broke. Oh, you can have what you say, but you keep saying what you have. And so, yeah. But letting that Iron Man costume, that's the thing. That's the death, is letting the Iron Man costume and stop believing that you're only loved for what you do. And once you can, because once I was like this puddle of mud here, and I really love like all these little Disney shows about like the princess kissing the toad. That's what happened with me. I was a toad whenever my now wife kissed me. Like I'd fallen down. I'm like, there's nothing left of me. I had nothing to give. I had just collapsed. I'm like, I've got nothing. I don't have anything to give anybody. I gave everything and it wasn't enough. So I give up. And then, and again, I lost all the people that were in my life because now I don't have an Iron Man costume. So they're like, well, I don't love you. I'll love Iron Man. Right? And so I'm just like, well, I guess I'm just never going to be loved now. But then my now wife, she just came in and she just loved me. I'm like, but I didn't think that, I didn't know that we were going to be in a relationship. I didn't know that in the beginning, when we were first talking, I didn't know that it was like, this was going to be us together. And so because I didn't think that, I said to her, I was like, hey, what's like something that you would, since we're not going to be in a relationship, what's something that you would never tell somebody that you would be in a relationship with, but you'd just love to tell? And I shared mine, and I'm like, this is what I would never tell someone that I was going to be in a relationship with, is that I'm broke right now. I got no money. I've got nothing. And she's like, well, that's not a big deal. What's the problem with that? And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Everybody else hates me because I don't have any money left. And she's like, I don't care. That's not why I want to be around you. So it's just, you get to finally be real. So from the ideal self to the real self, this is what your real experience. But then underneath that is your true self. That's your eternal identity that's perfect, pure, whole, and complete, always has been and always will be. And then you start to identify with that. And then that starts to move your emotions and then move your mind. And then your mind that informs the world of the inspiration that's coming out of you. And it shapes the world around you as a reflection of the world within you.
That is perfect. And we all have that choice to make. And we all need to just let go. It's really that simple. Just let go. But not everyone can do it. It's time to learn the secrets of life. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
You've got a million reputations. You've got one character. Only focus on the character. And
reputations are built on someone else's vision of you, not your vision of yourself. So ignore them.
Ignore all your reputations. Make sure that your character's intact. And as long as that's good, doesn't matter what anybody thinks about you. You know who you are. As long as you know who you are, doesn't care if anybody else, doesn't matter if anybody else does.
Cool. What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
That I'm not a human doing, I'm a human being.
And I think if people would just remember that one thing, stop, focus on doing, and just be. And you don't need to do anything to be.
Yeah.
Just let go.
You do need to be in order for what you do to actually make a positive impact. I think it's from the Tao Te Ching. It says the master does nothing yet leaves nothing undone. So the doing is just going to happen automatically when you get to your source of being. When you get to your center and you're being fully, the doing just comes out, and it's not work, it's not effort, it's effortless doing.
If you were to give an 18-year-old one specific piece of wisdom, what would it be?
Do not conform to the patterns of this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Get yourself a vision of a character. What would you like to be seen as in this world? Start setting the goals. What would that person be doing? What would that person be doing each day? And just start to work towards that vision.
And the first part is the most important. Pick your vision, because otherwise you're going the wrong direction.
Yeah, without vision, the people perish.
If people would like to learn more about you, the book, what you're doing, what's the best way for them to do that?
You just go to findyourpurposebook.com. You can download the book for free. It's If I Die Before I Wake is the name of the book. But if you just go to findyourpurposebook.com, you can put your name and email address in. You'll get the PDF version and the audio version. And there's the Spanish audio version on there as well.
Cool. And we will make sure to put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
What level are you in? What level do you want to be in? I've always said everything you need, you have. You just need to let go of ego and what society says you need, and to just be the perfect person you were designed to be. Got to live in alignment with that. Most people aren't. They're chasing someone else's dreams or someone else's desires, which is why they struggle. Are you ready for that journey? I've been on it for quite a long time, and I will admit I'm sometimes a little slow to catch on. That's okay. Every day I move a little bit further forward. By the way, who do you know who would benefit from listening to this? Would you do me a favor? Would you share it with them? I'd appreciate that. If you post stuff like this on social, go ahead and share it. Tag me as well. It's a great way to say thank you. And I appreciate you for listening. Next week, I've got my good friend Andy Garrett back on. We're going to talk about unleashing radical resilience, thriving through life's challenges. So what do we do when we hit a bump in the road? That's what we'll chat about. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week.